The next problem we're going to do is question 5 in the homework for section 2.5, and the problem says that the data show the number of hours of television watched per day by a sample of 28 people. It says to use technology to answer parts A and B. Okay, so in part A, it's asking us to find the 3 quartiles of this data set. So let's go ahead and copy the data set into StatCrunch. Okay, and we're going to put the data in an empty column. Okay, then go to the stat menu, summary stats, columns. Okay, select the column that has your data. Okay, and then select the summary statistics. So we want the first quartile, the median, and the third quartile. So remember, the median is the same as the second quartile. Okay, so the quartiles are 2.5, 4.5, and 7. So the first quartile is 2.5. The median, or Q2, is 4.5, and then the third quartile is 7. Okay, so now we're going to discuss what are called box and whisker plots. So we're going to draw what's called a box and whisker plot for this data set. Okay, so at the bottom of page 104, it says that another important application of Quartiles is to represent data sets using what's called a box and whisker plot. So a box and whisker plot, or box plot, is an exploratory data analysis tool that highlights the important features of a data set. Okay, so more specifically, your box plot will show the location of these 5 numbers. Okay, so the minimum value, the first quartile, the median, or Q2, the third quartile, Q3, and then the maximum data value. Okay, so the location of these 5 numbers are going to be in your box plot as shown below. Okay, so if you're constructing box plots by hand, I would recommend that you follow the guidelines at page 105. Okay, but we're going to go ahead and do our box plots in StatCrunch. Okay, and it does mention in the book that these 5 numbers here that I just mentioned are called the 5-number summary of a data set. Okay, so the minimum value, okay, which is the smallest data value. Okay, the first quartile, the median, the third quartile, and then the maximum data value. Okay, which is the largest data value. Okay, are going to be in your box plot. Okay, so going back to the problem. Okay, we are going to select the appropriate answer choice. All right, however, let's go ahead and get the graph into StatCrunch. Okay, so we're going to go to graph, select box plot. Okay, select the column that contains your data. Okay, and you can use fences to identify outliers, although the problem is not asking us to identify the outliers. Okay, and there are several different formatting options. Let's go ahead and leave everything else alone and click Compute. Okay, so StatCrunch draws the box plots vertically. So in other words, the box plots go up and down. Okay, but if you put your mouse over the different parts of the box plot, right, it'll tell you, it'll give you some information about your box plot. Okay, so the lower end of the box, okay, represents the lowest value, okay, in this case, which is 0. Okay, so that's called what's called the left whisker. So if your box plot is drawn horizontally, we call this the left whisker. Okay, the bottom of the box, or the left end of the box, would be your first quartile, which is 2.5. Okay, the line going through the middle of the box, so the line inside the box, okay, that's going to be the median, which is 4.5. Okay, and then the line on the top of the box, or to the right, or the line on the right hand side of the box, is the third quartile, Q3. And you can see that in the little pop up there. Okay, and then likely the very top of this whisker here would be the highest data value, which is 9. Okay. So this is a little bit tricky because the box plots are drawn vertically instead of horizontally. You might be able to change it by going to options and selecting edit. But based on that information, we're going to select the appropriate answer choice that represents this box plot. Okay, so the left end of the left whisker is going to be at 0. Okay, so they're all started at 0. Okay, the right end of the right whisker should be at 9. Okay. Now, so all three of these box plots seem to have that in common. Okay, so you can't eliminate any of the answer choices just yet. Okay. So remember, the bottom edge of the box, or the left edge of the box, should be the first quartile, which is at 2.5. Okay, that's what we're looking for. Okay. So it kind of looks like answer choice C. Okay, and then the median is at 4.5, remember. And then the right edge of the box is at the third quartile, which is at 7. Okay, so answer choice C looks most like the box plot that would represent the data set. Okay, so before we move on to the next question, like I said, you can draw your boxes horizontally. Okay, so if you go to options and then edit, okay, so underneath other options, right, we can select the box that says draw boxes horizontal. Okay, that'll make our jobs a whole lot easier for selecting the correct box plot to answer that question. So let's go ahead and move on to the next question. Okay, and it says that a modified box and whisker plot is a box plot that uses symbols to identify outliers. Okay, so the horizontal line of a modified box and whisker plot extends as far as the minimum data entry that is not an outlier and the maximum data entry that is an outlier, that is not an outlier. Okay. So in this problem, we're going to first identify any outliers in the data set. So that's part A. So we can start by copying the data in the StatCrunch. Okay, and what we need to identify outliers is the quartiles, okay, specifically the first and third quartiles. Okay, and there is an option to compute the IQR, so you can select that as well. Okay, so be sure to select the column that contains your data. Okay, select the summary statistics that you want, and click Compute. Okay, so we can see that Q1 is 39, Q3 is 59, and then the IQR is 20. Okay. So before we identify the outliers, it's helpful to have the data set in numerical order. So like I showed in the previous video, right, we're going to go to Data, select Sort, and we're going to select the column that contains the data set we want to sort. Okay, so we're going to sort the data in var6, and we're going to put them in ascending order. So ascending is least to greatest. Okay, and we can replace the current columns with the data set in ascending order, but it's still going to be the same data set. Okay, so now we have the data in column 6 in order from least to greatest. Okay, all right, so once we have the inner quartile range and the first and third quartile, right, we can use that information to identify the outliers. Okay, so according to StatCrunch, the inner quartile range for the data set was 20. Okay. All right, and we're going to go and use our calculators to find the lower and upper fences, right, which are the cutoffs for determining whether a data value is an outlier. Okay, so the lower fence is equal to Q1 minus 1.5 times the IQR. So let's do this on our calculator. So Q1, which is 39. All right, minus 1.5 multiplied by the IQR of 20. It gives us 9. So the lower fence is 9. Okay, let's get the upper fence. Okay, which is Q3 plus 1.5 times the IQR. Okay, so Q3 is 59. So 59 plus 1.5 times 20 is 89. Okay, so the upper fence is 89. Okay, so any data values that are less than 9 or greater than 89 are going to be outliers. Okay, so if we look at our sorted data, okay, we can see that there might be a couple of outliers, right? So 1 is less than the lower fence. Likewise, 96 is greater than the upper fence. Okay, so those are potential outliers. Okay, these like 18 through 63 appear to be inside the fences. Okay, so the rest of the data values aren't outliers. Okay, so the outliers are 96 and 1. Okay. All right, and then we're going to choose the correct box plot. So remember, we're constructing a modified box plot for this data. Okay, so we want our box plot to show us the outliers in our data set. Okay, so let's go to Graph. Select a box plot. Okay, select the column that has your data. Yeah, you can use the fences to identify the outliers, and we want to draw the box horizontally. All right, let's go ahead and click Compute. Okay, what it does is it draws your box plot. Okay, so you've got this outlier here on the left-hand side, which has a value of 1. Okay, and then this value over here, which is also an outlier, is equal to 96. Okay, so the box plot correctly identified the outliers, and the left end of the left whisker goes to the lowest value that's not an outlier. Okay, which is 18. Okay, likewise, the right end of the right whisker only extends as far as the highest data value that's not an outlier. Okay, which is equal to 63, and that's what we want. Okay, so based on our box plot, we're going to select the appropriate answer choice. Okay, so it kind of looks like answer choice D. All right, and you can enlarge each of these graphs to see it better. Okay, but it looks like answer choice D would be the most appropriate box plot. Okay, that completes question 6. Okay, let's go ahead and move on to the next question. Okay, and question 7 says to use the box and whisker plot to identify the 5-number summary. So remember, a box and whisker plot will show you the location of numbers in the 5-number summary. So remember, these are the numbers in a 5-number summary for a data set. Okay, so all you're doing to answer question 7, okay, is that you're identifying the minimum value, the first quartile, the median, the third quartile, and the maximum data value. So if this is a regular box plot and not a modified box plot, okay, the left end of the left whisker goes to the lowest value, which is the minimum. The left edge of the box is equal to the first quartile. The line inside the box is the median. Okay, so remember, the median is not always in the middle, the direct middle of the box. It could be to the left or to the right. Okay, so this would be the median. Okay, the right edge of the box would be the third quartile, and then the right edge of the right whisker would be your largest data value. Okay, so you would answer this question accordingly. Okay, again, question 8 is testing your understanding of the quartiles and of box plots in general. Okay, so it's helpful to know that when you compute the quartiles of your data set, okay, it's helpful to know what they're telling you. Okay, so the first quartile separates the bottom 25% of the data from the top 75% of the data. So for the first quartile, you're going to see 25% of the data. It's going to tell you that it's going to give you the value of the data set that's at the 25th percentile. So in other words, 25% of the data values are going to be less than Q1. Okay, likewise, the median is the halfway point, the middle point. So 50% of the data values are less than median, and likewise 75% of the data values are less than the third quartile.